Good afternoon. I'm Jonathan Fox, President of the Engineering Graduate Student Association. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the 2014 Fall Engineering Graduate Commencement. Please stand and join me in opening our ceremonies by singing the National Anthem. Members of the award-winning UT ROTC Pershing Rifles Color Guard will present the colors. I respectfully request that degree candidates and others who may be wearing caps remove them during the National Anthem. Would you please rise?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. It is my honor today to welcome all of you, students and teachers, administrators and staff, friends and family, to the culmination of the work that these graduate students have done over the past years. Graduates, this is a great accomplishment for each of you, and you are not here accidentally. Today is the result of passion, dedication, support from loved ones, and countless hours of hard work, and you should all be proud of that. We live in an extraordinary world, surrounded by amazing creations, nearly inexplicable natural phenomena, and even seemingly insurmountable problems. And yet, it's easy to take all that we have for granted, to forget how amazing this life really is, and how amazing it could become. You are among the small percentage of people who chose not to ignore the difficult questions and dared to learn more. You have joined a force that stands together to innovate and design solutions and to make our world a better place. You are bioengineers who create synthetic and living implants and prosthetics. You are chemical engineers who develop antibiotics and biofuels. You are civil engineers who construct buildings and bridges that will withstand time and disaster. You are electrical engineers who connect us and our world with virtual computers. You are mechanical engineers who connect us and our world with physical machines. And you are so much more. You are engineers who build our society, who bridge the gap between the world of tomorrow and today. This ceremony marks the end of one chapter in your lives and celebrates what you have achieved so far. It also brings the beginning of another chapter and sends you off with a cheer. Whether you're moving on to a job or continuing your education, I look at you all knowing that you can be proud of where you're at today. And I wish to ask one thing of you. Never stop learning, and never stop asking questions. If you do that, I promise that you will be successful in whatever it is you choose to do. Again, it is my honor to welcome you to this graduation ceremony, and I wish to be the first of many to tell you all congratulations. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Stephen LeBlanc, Professor and Dean of the College of Engineering.
Thank you, Jonathan. We're delighted to have so many family members and friends join us here this evening. It's a clear demonstration of how proud you all are of the outstanding achievements of your loved ones. To our graduates, this is a special day in your life, both professionally and personally, and I hope you all look at this milestone with great pride. Many of you are earning the title of masters today. The designation of masters indicates mastery of subject matter, and this is a mark of accomplishment. In medieval times, an individual had to create or craft a masterpiece after a long period of study and present this to a guild to gain the rank of master. The masterpiece was not necessarily the greatest or defining work of a craft worker, as we tend to think of that term now, but rather the masterpiece was the work that proved one's eligibility for the title of masters. In some sense, your theses and dissertations are the masterpieces, but we're confident that many of you will go on to achieve even greater works in the future. I hope that your designation as a master will also convey to those whom you meet not just your mastery of technical expertise of your field, but also of a deep and legitimate sense of respect for the people around you. As we begin this ceremony, let us pause to recognize some very important people. These are the ones who have provided mentoring, guidance, and necessary emotional and financial support so that you, our graduates, could enjoy the benefits of a university education. I now request the parents, grandparents, spouses, children, and friends of our graduates to please rise. Everybody up. Please join me in thanking them. Thank you. I now ask that our College of Engineering faculty who are here stand up and be recognized. Their mentorship helped the graduate students reach this milestone. Please join me in thanking them. See, everybody gets to stand up today at one time or another. I'd now like to introduce some special guests to the college and university officers who have contributed significantly, often in the background, in helping our graduates reach this milestone today. As I call their names, I request them to rise and remain standing. Please hold your applause until all of them have been recognized. Dr. Nagi Naganathan, Interim President of the University of Toledo and Professor of Mechanical, Industrial, and Manufacturing Engineering. Dr. Bill Messer, Vice President of Research and Professor of Pharmacology and Medicinal Chemistry, and our keynote speaker today. Mr. Jeff Cole, Member of the Board of Trustees. Professor John Barrett, Interim Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs. Dr. Dorothea Sawicki, Vice Provost for Health Science Affairs and University Accreditation. Dr. Susan Pocat, Associate Dean of Academic Affairs, College of Graduate Studies. Dr. Sammy Spann, Associate Provost for Student Engagement. And Mr. Peter Thomas, Director of Experiential Education and Career Services. Thank you all for being here today. And from our, help me welcome them. And from our college, Dr. Mohammed Samir Hefsi, Associate Dean for Graduate Studies and Research Administration and Professor of Mechanical Engineering. Dr. Brian Randolph, Executive Associate Dean of Academic Affairs and Professor of Civil Engineering. Dr. Scott Molitor, Associate Dean of Undergraduate Studies, Professor of Bioengineering. Dr. Isabel Escobar, Associate Dean of Research, Development and Outreach and Professor of Chemical Engineering. Please join me in thanking them. It's now my pleasure to recognize the following students for their superior performance as teaching assistants. As I call each department's award recipient, I'd like to ask the department chairs to step forward for a photograph. From the Bioengineering Department, Sushil Sudarshan. A round of applause for Sushil. Congratulations. From the Department of Civil Engineering, Robert Phillips. From the Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, Khair Al-Shamela. The Outstanding Student Teaching Assistant in the Department of Engineering Technology is Long Chang. Guess we'll congratulate Long Chang in absentia. And from the Department of Mechanical, Industrial, and Manufacturing Engineering, Lakshika Nishadi Kurupurakchi. The following students are being recognized for outstanding performance in their master's thesis or master's projects. As I call each department's recipient, I would like to ask their advisors, if they are here, to step forward for a photograph. From the Bioengineering Department, Nilifur Rostami, and the advisor is Dr. Sarit Baduri. From the Civil Engineering Department, the award winner is Umesh Shestra, and the advisor is Dr. Azadeh Parvin. From the Department of Mechanical, Industrial, and Manufacturing Engineering, the award winner is Pavanesh Narayanan. Advisor is Dr. Mohammed Alahinia. And from the Professional Master's Program, the Outstanding Master's Project was Wendell Dean Hardy, and his advisor was Dr. Nicolaitis. Congratulations. It's now my distinct honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. William Messer. Dr. Messer received his BS in biology from Springfield College. He did his graduate work in the Center for Brain Research at the University of Rochester, where he received a master's degree in neuroscience and a PhD in neuroscience. After completing his doctoral work, he joined the University of Toledo faculty in 1985 as an assistant professor of medicinal chemistry. He served as the interim chair of pharmacology before being named professor and chair of pharmacology in 2001. In 2013, Dr. Messer was appointed as vice president of research at the University of Toledo. He has received more than $2 million in support from the National Institutes of Health for multidisciplinary studies of muscarinic receptors. In addition, Dr. Messer has worked with the pharmaceutical and biotechnology industries on the development of new treatments for neurological disorders such as Alzheimer's disease, schizophrenia, and chronic pain. He's published more than 60 papers in refereed journals. He holds 8 U.S. patents and several international patents for compounds that improve memory function. In 1997, he received the Outstanding Faculty Research Award from the university. In 2001, he co-founded Cognitive Pharmaceuticals Limited, a small pharmaceutical company based in Toledo, focused on developing new treatments for neurological and psychiatric disorders, such as Alzheimer's disease and schizophrenia. Cognitive Pharmaceuticals merged with Mithridian in 2008, and Dr. Messer served as Chief Scientific Officer and as a consultant with them until 2013. Please join me in a warm Toledo Rocket welcome for Dr. William Messer.
Thank you, Dean, for the kind introduction and the opportunity to address the graduating class of the College of Engineering. I am honored to speak at today's ceremony, and I will do my best to not overstay my welcome. So you heard a little bit about me from the introduction, and what I'd like to do over the next few minutes, and I promise I will be as brief as I can, but just introduce you a little bit more about what I've been doing and how I got to where I am today as the Vice President of Research for the University of Toledo, and some observations that I hope will be of some help to you, the graduating class, and as you embark on your careers. So, as I said, you heard about me from the introduction. What you don't know is that when I came here from the University of Rochester, I was a very naive young faculty member. I had been in the neuroscience program in New York at the Center for Brain Research. And at that time, my goal was to understand the role of brain proteins in memory function. And I focused on a type of receptor called the M1 muscarinic receptor. And in those days, I conducted behavioral studies of memory function using drugs that block the activity of these proteins, these receptors. And when we administered drugs that blocked a particular kind of receptor called the M1 muscarinic receptor, we found that memory was impaired in those animals. So we hypothesized that developing a compound that would do the opposite, that would activate those receptors, could be useful in treating memory deficits associated with neurological disorders like Alzheimer's disease. For me at the time, The hypothesis was the kind of thing that you would write at the end of a specific aims section of a grant proposal. It was to emphasize the importance of the studies that you were doing. And it was really a throwaway line. I'm not really sure that I believed what I wrote. But I was fortunate to work with, in the College of Pharmacy, in the Department of Medicinal and Biological Chemistry, with a great group of faculty, chemists, and pharmacologists. And early in my career, we recruited a medicinal chemist from the pharmaceutical industry, Graham Durant. And Graham had an excellent background in medicinal chemistry and drug development. He was one of the chemists on the team that developed cimetidine, or what we know as Tagamet, the first anti-ulcer medication that worked by blocking another protein called the H2 histamine receptor. And Graham wanted to continue to develop histamine antagonists, so together with my colleague Wayne Haas, I helped him develop some biochemical tests to help him evaluate his compounds. At the same time, he worked on a project with us to synthesize compounds that could activate those M1 receptors that we were so interested in. So we initiated a great collaboration with Lilly Research Laboratories in Indianapolis and other pharmaceutical companies, Novo Nordisk from Denmark, for example. And that led to the synthesis of a number of compounds, including one called xanomeline, that made it into clinical trials for Alzheimer's patients. It was a very interesting compound. It actually enhanced memory function, but unfortunately, it produced a number of side effects and too many adverse effects, like nausea and vomiting, and that limited its utility in Alzheimer's patients. So we kept working on our compounds even after that collaboration ended, and we found a compound that also activated M1 muscarinic receptors, but had limited adverse effects. So we continued to develop the compound at the University of Toledo, and eventually, in order to move that compound forward, we started a company, as you heard, Cognitive Pharmaceuticals. And we did that so that we could move the compound into clinical trials. In the end, we were successful in filing what's known as an investigational new drug application with the Food and Drug Administration. And our company then merged with this company from Wisconsin, and we completed phase 1 clinical trials in which our lead compound was found to be safe and well tolerated by healthy human volunteers. And I learned a lot through those experiences, and I want to share just 3 observations out of all of that, more than 20 years of experience, as I reflect back on that process. So I've got 3 points, all right? And I'll try to make it easy and highlight each of those as we go. But the first major point is to identify a goal. Like I mentioned, we had this throwaway line to develop new treatments for Alzheimer's disease. So have a goal and then develop a single-minded focus on achieving that goal. It takes a lot of creativity and effort to accomplish something worthwhile. If it didn't, somebody already would have done it. So our drug development project required me to grow professionally in a number of ways. I became more proficient at chemistry, pharmacology, and toxicology. I also learned several useful skills like curve fitting, programming, molecular modeling, statistical analysis. And I was able to translate many of these skills and proficiencies into the classroom to teach students in pharmacy, but also into the laboratory and mentoring undergraduate and graduate students in laboratory experiences. And I was able to have an impact on students from a wide variety of disciplines, including chemistry, biology, psychology, education, medicine, and engineering. I learned something from everyone that came through my lab, and I quickly recognized that the drug development process, and I think anything worthwhile, really requires a team effort. For example, synthetic chemists needed pharmacologists to evaluate the compounds that they were synthesizing. Also, in the later stages, we had to partner with scientists from the pharmaceutical industry and with the National Institutes of Health in order to complete the tests that we needed to file our investigational new drug application. So, it's critical to have a focus on achieving your goals, but recognize you don't have to do it alone. You'll need to work as a member of a team, and most likely not in a leadership capacity to begin with. But as you develop this needed focus, you will see the opportunities to grow and to take on leadership roles. Put in the hard work that's needed to be ready for the responsibilities of leading a team. Also, be ready to learn from others on your team because they will be your best mentors and teachers. Also, and this is kind of hard to do, but accept others who have opposing views or different approaches. Try to understand them and see if you can learn something helpful from them. Don't dismiss them too early. They could become your next boss or your next best friend. Also, learn what servant leadership means. I find it really difficult, even though I am in charge of a number of different people, I find it difficult to tell them what to do. I think it's much easier to ask them, how can I help you do the work that you need to do? Second point is, although a single-minded focus is needed to achieve goals, it's also important to see the big picture. It's very easy to become focused on the details that you miss the connections and the larger picture. And it's even possible to lose sight of your goal as you focus on the details. So although we focused our efforts on a relatively linear drug development process, we branched out during that process into new areas like molecular pharmacology in order to understand how our drugs interacted with these brain proteins, receptors. So we learned new techniques as they were being developed in areas like molecular biology, so that we could modify the proteins we were working with to understand how to build better drugs, how the drugs were interacting with these proteins, and how we could identify where on the proteins they were interacting so we could take advantage of those properties. And we also learned more about the biochemical basis of Alzheimer's disease, so we could explore disease-modifying approaches to treating Alzheimer's. These studies opened new avenues for research and a deeper understanding of how our brains work and how drugs activate or block receptors. The new studies also led to new approaches for developing better compounds and a framework for bridging what had been two disparate fields and different approaches to drug development. So I didn't discover either of these fields or even this new burgeoning field, but I was able to contribute to the dialogue that is still ongoing and is still leading to new ways to develop new therapies in a wide variety of fields. So don't rest on what you already know. Seek to find something new, a new approach or a new perspective. And sometimes that new perspective will help you see that you're heading in the wrong direction and that you need to change your goals. And my third and final point is to expect and learn to embrace failure. Expect to face hardships and failures along the way. Many will not be ready to accept your approach or your ideas, even though you think it's the right way to go. Experiments rarely work out as well as hoped on the first try, and rarely does a grant proposal receive funding on the first try or the first attempt, and rarely does a manuscript get accepted without some revisions. Success takes persistence, a really thick skin, and again, an eye on the big picture. So, like I said, we were successful in filing an IND and moving our lead compound into clinical trials, but the company that we merged with had difficulty in raising funds for further clinical trials. Drug development is expensive, and we were looking for money to develop drugs at a time when the pharmaceutical industry was pulling away from Alzheimer's disease research because it was so expensive and there were so many failures. It is difficult to accept failure. I devoted more than 25 years of my life to developing treatments for Alzheimer's disease, and I had a single-minded focus. I worked hard. I tried new approaches to achieve my goals, and it still wasn't enough to overcome some really tough obstacles. It has been even more difficult to accept failure because my father has developed dementia. He probably has Alzheimer's disease. And that's a really tough thing to face when you talk with your mom and your dad. But I've learned, and this is a really hard lesson, but I've learned that failures don't define who you are. They simply mark what you have tried to do and perhaps where you've failed. But you are successful already if you made the attempt and you persevered when things didn't go so well. While all of this was happening, I did have a chance to work with Jim Tremp, our former Vice President of Research, on a project that focused on bringing the pharmaceutical industry into Ohio. I enjoyed the challenge in working with him to pull teams of researchers together and think strategically about how to work with colleagues both within our university as well as around the state. It was similar to what I had done in our drug development efforts, and I recognized the need for leadership at the university. Also, I realized that my own experiences as a faculty member had prepared me for the various responsibilities of the position. So when Jim told me he planned to retire last year, I seized the opportunity, and I was fortunate to be offered the position as Vice President of Research. I spent the first several months learning about the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs and voicing support for research at the university. That was difficult and frustrating at times because some did not value research within the university and didn't really understand the role that it plays at a university. And research really is the foundation for the academic enterprise. Research is the desire to learn something new, to understand something at a different level, at a more fundamental level. It really is the basis for teaching our students more than what we learned in school and preparing them to discover even more than we dreamed possible. Over the last several months, I've had the pleasure of becoming more and more engaged in working with faculty on a wide variety of projects around the university, and many involving faculty within the College of Engineering. I'm excited by a renewed sense of energy on the campus as faculty seek to find answers to fundamental questions and apply new knowledge to solving key problems in what I think are some very important areas like water quality, advanced manufacturing, and developing new treatments for human diseases. So I'm enjoying my new role as Vice President for Research. I haven't given up on developing new treatments for Alzheimer's disease. That's still a worthy goal, and it still needs some help. But I need to find a new approach. So in recent weeks, I've been talking with colleagues at UT and around the country to find alternative ways to get our lead compound approved for use in humans. As those efforts develop, I'm focusing my efforts in helping UT grow in stature as a research-intensive university. That will take a lot of hard work and a single-minded focus on the part of our faculty and administration. We need strong faculty leaders like those in the room here with us today, who see the big picture and know how to work together as part of a team. We need to identify new talent. Perhaps some of you graduates can go out and learn some new approaches, find some new perspectives, and then come back to the university to join our faculty and help fill the gaps where we need to be strengthened. And also, we need to be ready to fail. Nothing worthwhile is ever easy. We won't always get it right, but we can keep on getting better. And I look forward to working with our faculty and our university administration to create an environment that values research and fosters the growth of our students. So, in closing, I want to congratulate each of our graduates on achieving this important milestone. I encourage you to set worthwhile goals and work diligently to achieve them. Don't become so narrow in focus that you miss the opportunities around you. And most of all, don't be afraid to fail. Your success is already there waiting for you to discover it. Congratulations.
Bill, thank you so much for the keynote address and also for the refreshing new philosophy you brought to the Office of Research. I have a token of appreciation for your keynote. We'll go up here and switch it. Next, I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Susan Pocott, Associate Dean of Academic Affairs of the College of Graduate Studies, for a few remarks. Then Dr. Pocott will present the doctoral degree candidates.
Good evening. Today there are 12 candidates for the doctoral degree in the College of Engineering. Candidates for the doctoral degrees will please rise. President Naganathan, I have the honor to present the candidates for the degrees of Doctor of Philosophy in Engineering, Doctor of Philosophy in Biomedical Engineering. The completion of a doctoral degree is a major accomplishment and reflects years of dedication and hard work. On behalf of the Dean of the College of Graduate Studies, I offer my warmest congratulations to our newest recipients in recognition of their efforts. Please again join me in another round of applause for these candidates.
Thank you, Dr. Pocott. I know how excited our graduates are to have reached this stage, and I'm honored to have been able to play a role in the development. During the majority of your career here, I knew you in a different role as Dean of Engineering. Indeed, when you entered as a new student, I never thought I will have the privilege of addressing you as the interim president. In the coming days, I will get to recognize and honor more than 2,000 graduates over the next 2-3 days. But if I can share a secret with you today, I find there is more of a personal resonance with many of you. I have come to know many of you on my personal journey as a new international student 35 years ago, closely mirrors many of yours. So congratulations on what you have accomplished thus far, and I wish you the very best in the future. Now, upon the recommendation of the faculty and the authority vested in me by the state of Ohio and the trustees of the University of Toledo, I do confer upon all of the qualified candidates for all doctoral degrees, including those in absentia, the degrees for which they have met the requirements. You are charged with the duties and responsibilities of the degree and granted the privileges and prerogatives pertaining thereto. The doctoral graduates may now move their tassels from the back left of their mortarboards to the front left side. Please join me in recognizing these doctoral degree recipients. Congratulations.
I now invite the candidates for all doctoral degrees to come forward up the steps to receive the congratulations of President Naganathan, Dean LeBlanc of the College of Engineering, your department chair, and myself. Each doctoral candidate will be hooded by her or his advisor or department chair. Dr. Mohammed Samir Hefsi, Associate Dean of the Graduate Studies and Research Administration in the College of Engineering, will read the names of the doctoral candidates and their advisors. Please come forward.
Thank you, Dr. Pocott. I invite Dr. Siwa Sawiki to join the stage. And first candidate is Mariam Nabiyuni. And Mariam's advisor is Professor Sarit Badouri. And Mariam is going to be hooded by Dr. Badouri. Thank you. Now I invite Professor Glenn Lipscomb, Chair of Chemical Engineering, to join the podium. And the first candidate is Yukun Liu. And the advisor of Yukun Liu is Professor Glenn Lipscomb. Next is Balakrishna Madi. And Balakrishna is co-advised by Professor Sasidhar Varanasi, Professor Glenn Lipscomb. And Balakrishna is going to be hooded by Professor Varanasi. Next is Wei Zhang. And the advisor of Wei Zhang is Professor Maria Coleman. Next, from Civil Engineering, Shu Wang. And the advisor of Shu Wang is Professor Eddie Shu. Shu Wang is going to be hooded by Professor Youngwoo Su. From Computer Science and Electrical Engineering, Jordan Ringenberg. And the advisor of Jordan is Professor Vijay Devapakhtuni. Jordan will be hooded by Professor Mansour Allam, chair of the department. From the Department of Mechanical Engineering, Jingyu Wang. And Jingyu Wang advisor is Professor Shunha Sheng. And from Mechanical Engineering, Weiling Wang. And the advisor of Weiling is Professor Jayatissa. Congratulations. and dwelling is going to be hooded by Professor Jayatis. Can I have a big round of applause for all our doctoral candidates?
Today there are 60 candidates for master's degrees. Will all the candidates for master's degrees please rise? Dr. Naganathan, as Dean of the College of Engineering, I'm pleased to present the candidates for the degrees of Master of Science in Bioengineering, Master of Science in Chemical Engineering, Master of Science in Civil Engineering, Master of Science in Electrical Engineering, Master of Science in Engineering, Master of Science in Industrial Engineering, and Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering. Please join me in recognizing these master's degree candidates. Dr. Naganathan, these students have completed all the requirements for master's degrees.
The faculty and the Board of Trustees join me in delivering these congratulations and in noting the insoluble link between you and the University of Toledo. We are linked forever. Our good fortune is your good fortune. Your success is our pride. Now, upon the recommendation of the faculty and the authority vested in me by the State of Ohio and the trustees of the University of Toledo, I do confer upon all of the qualified candidates for all master's degrees, including those in absentia, the degrees for which they have met the requirements. You are charged with the duties and responsibilities of that degree and granted the privileges and prerogatives appertaining thereto. The master's graduates may now move their tassels from the back right of their mortarboards to the back left of their mortarboards. Please join me in recognizing these master's degree recipients. Congratulations.
I now invite the candidates for all master's degrees to come forward to receive the congratulations of Dr. Naganathan, President of the University, Dr. Pokat, Associate Dean of Academic Affairs of the College of Graduate Studies, their respective department chairs, and myself. Dr. Hefsey will announce the names of each candidate as he or she approaches the south end of the stage. Please.
I'd like to invite Dr. Lipscomb, Chair of the Chemical Engineering, Peter Park. Yahya Khan. Ravali Sidam, still from civil engineering. From civil engineering, Alan Michael Domalski. Hamenta Bista. The next group of candidates are from the Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science. I invite Dr. Alam to shine the podium. Aishwarya Satish. Ramesh Aladi. Firas Asad. Boming Ni. Simon Zhu. The next candidate is from the Practice-Oriented Master Program. I invite Professor Solarik to join the podium. Wendell Hardy. Also from the Practice-Oriented Master Program, Neil Sievert. The next group is from the Department of Mechanical Engineering. I invite Professor Abdullah Afji to join the podium. Bhavanesh Narayan. Yusuf Al Khalifin. Z Wang. Zhang Kun Fan. Can I have a big rocket-style round of applause for all our candidates? I now invite Professor Springman to conduct the Order of the Engineering ceremony.
At this point in our ceremony, I represent the engineering affiliate of the alumni of the University of Toledo and the Toledo Society of Professional Engineers. And together we support link number 70 of the Order of the Engineer. The Order of the Engineer has its roots in a Canadian tradition known as the ritual of a calling of an engineer. At a meeting of the 7 past presidents of the Engineering Institute of Canada in 1922, Professor Edward Haltane of the University of Toronto proposed a ceremony and a standard of ethics for engineers. We're not sure, but we believe that he was motivated by an accident that had happened some 15 years prior to their meeting. In 1907, August 29th, a bridge in Quebec over the St. Lawrence River was nearing completion. And just about 5 o'clock, which would have been quitting time, the bridge collapsed and fell into the river. There were 86 workers on the bridge at the time. Said there were 75 fatalities and 11 injuries in those 86 people. Ultimately, it was proved that the push to get the bridge done on time and within budget was part of the main problem in the collapse. Theodore Cooper was the bridge designer, and he had said that he would provide the best and cheapest bridge. And as they constructed the bridge, the emphasis on cheapest overshadowed best, seconded by trying to keep on a timely track to finish the bridge. Ultimately, it was proved that this haste to put the bridge up and do it within budget resulted in a lack of focus on safety and consequently the deaths of the people who were working on the bridge. We believe that Professor Haltain was motivated by this, in that thinking that engineers, not merely filling a job, have a purpose in serving the public, for which they do things like create bridges. So he proposed this to the other people that he was meeting with, these past presidents of the Engineering Institute of Canada, and they agreed with him. He went on to ask Rudyard Kipling, who had written about engineers, to construct the ceremony by which engineers would be bonded together in their common goal. And Kipling wrote, "The ritual of the calling of an engineer has been instituted with the simple end of directing the young engineer toward a consciousness of his profession and its significance, and indicating to the older engineer his responsibilities in receiving, welcoming, and supporting young engineers in their beginnings." The first ritual was held in Canada in 1925, and each of those initiated was presented with an iron ring, symbolic of the engineering profession. A similar discussion ensued many years later in 1966 in the United States, and it culminated in the formation of the Order of the Engineer, with the first ring ceremony, symbolized by the ring you see up here on the front table, being held at Cleveland State University in 1970. It was followed by a second ceremony at the University of Akron in 1971. The Order of the Engineer is the roster of engineers in the United States who have participated in an engineer's ring ceremony and who have publicly accepted the obligation of an engineer. The obligation of an engineer is the formal statement of an engineer's responsibilities to the public and to the profession. The engineer's ring ceremony is the public induction of the candidates into the Order of the Engineer, and that's a public induction here in the United States, unlike in Canada where it is a private ceremony. And in that induction ceremony, the candidates formally accept the obligation of an engineer, and they receive a stainless steel ring to be worn on the fifth finger of the working hand. You've received a packet. In there you'll find a certificate. There should be a pen. I invite you to take the certificate out and sign it at this time. The stainless steel ring is a symbol of continuity and community, and it's worn for all to see, and in effect it says, here is an engineer, possessed of a publicly avowed dedication to the profession and those it serves. And again, this is a reminder, worn on the little finger of the working hand so it comes in contact with the drawings or any product that you produce. It's there to remind you of your profession, your part in that profession, and your responsibility to those you serve, that is, the general public who use the products of engineers. I would invite the candidates for the Order of the Engineer to stand with me. And you'll find either in your packet or in the program for today the obligation of an engineer. You should have the ring in your packet. Please put that on. And then I invite you to join me in the bold part of the oath of the obligation of an engineer. I am an engineer. In my profession, I take deep pride. To it, I owe solemn obligations. Since the Stone Age, human progress has been spurred by the engineering genius. Engineers have made usable nature's vast resources of material and energy for mankind's benefit. Engineers have vitalized and turned to practical use the principles of science and the means of technology. Join me in the bold part. Were it not for this heritage of accumulated experience, my efforts would be feeble. As an engineer, I pledge to practice integrity and fair dealing, tolerance and respect, and to uphold devotion to the standards and the dignity of my profession, conscious always that my skill carries with it the obligation to serve humanity by making the best use of Earth's precious wealth. As an engineer, in humility and with a need for divine guidance, I shall participate in none but honest enterprises. When needed, my skill and knowledge shall be given without reservation for the public good. In the performance of duty and in fidelity to my profession, I shall give the utmost. I welcome you to the ranks of the practicing engineer. May your careers be long and productive, and may you wear your ring with pride in your chosen profession. You may be seated.
Thank you, Richard. Once again, let's join together and give one last round of applause for all our graduates. Thank you. None of these outcomes and events happen without special efforts from our staff, from the various college, department, and university offices throughout the year. Sandy Stewart from the Engineering Dean's Office played a lead role in organizing this event. Finally, I'd like to thank the UT Student Brass Quintet for providing the music we heard today. Please join me in recognizing them. All of you are invited to a reception in honor of our graduates in the main hallway of Nitschke Hall. One last request to the graduates and the faculty who are here. We'll be taking a group photograph of the graduating class along with the faculty. We're going to take the photograph in the SSOE seminar room on the first floor of Nitschke Hall. So I request all the graduates, faculty, and our special guests to go straight to the SSOE seminar room before the reception and await instructions from our photographer. I now ask you all to rise for the singing of the alma mater. I request that degree candidates and others wearing caps remove them during the alma mater. Those in academic regalia will then remain standing for the recessional. All others are asked to take their seats after the alma mater and to remain seated until the platform party, faculty, and graduates have left the auditorium. Thank you very much for joining us in this celebration today, and I wish you all a wonderful holiday season.
In tower shadows, our voices are raising to alma mater, golden and blue. Fair Toledo, praise to thee, portal of learning ever be. Hallowed halls we shall revere, promise to keep thy